Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Imtiaz Hassan from Jamia Millia Islamia, a central university. Today we are going to talk on module determination of protein structure, secondary structure far UV and tertiary structure near UV, protein denaturation under the paper techniques used in molecular biophysics part 2. After studying this module, the student will be able to understand how CD is used to understand protein structure. Then we talk about the secondary structure determination by far UV CD, and then we discuss about how the CD used for the determination of tertiary structure, and then ligand induced conformation changes and features of binding site can also be determined by CD spectroscopy. So we discuss these things in detail. Then we discuss about the evaluation of conformation changes in protein and DNA by CD and equilibrium and kinetics measurements experiment by the CD, and finally we discuss about the nucleic acid and other biomolecules that can be measured by the CD. So let's discuss with the circular dichroism. So circular dichroism refers to the difference in the absorption of two component, left and right component circularly polarized light. It can be provide structural and thermodynamic information about biological molecules, particularly proteins, and of course DNA as well. CD is observed when the absorbing molecule or group exhibit a chirality, that means the optical activity. So only chiral molecules give the CD signal and non-chiral molecule doesn't give any CD signal. CD can be used to explore protein structure under the wide range of experimental condition, and the CD signal of protein in the far UV and near UV region can be explored to see its secondary and tertiary structure respectively. In the far UV region, you will get idea about the secondary structure like alpha helix, beta strand, and random coil amount of these structure present, and in the near UV will get the signature peak for the tryptophan, tyrosine, and disulfide bonds. CD is an ideal technique to monitor conformation changes in protein which occur on binding to other molecules as well. Not only this, it can also used to assess the extent of protein unfolding and refolding under the denaturing conditions. We are going to discuss about the circular dichroism, how it actually works. You can see here in the left side that the two polarized light, left circularly polarized and right circularly polarized light, when it encounters with the molecule, it gives a signal in the form of CD, and that is actually produces the differences in the absorption of the left circularly polarized light and the right circularly polarized light. Can be derived as delta A equals to delta ECL, that's equal to absorption of the left circularly polarized light minus right circularly polarized light, and thus the elasticity is defined as delta E equals to EL lambda minus ER lambda, where EL and ER is the absorption due to the absorption coefficient due to the left circularly polarized light and right circularly polarized light at a particular wavelength. So in the degree, the elasticity is defined as theta molar m equals to 3300 delta E, and the molar elasticity is further can be derived in the form of theta absorbed into 10 divided by CL in the degree centimeter square per mole. Actually, the value of the theta generally depends on the concentration of the molecule. That's why to make it free of concentration, independent of concentration, we take the data of molar elasticity, and that's converted in such a way that the observed theta divided into 10 divided by CL, where the value of theta is present in the form of degree per centimeter square deci per mole. So the optical activity in protein is actually produced due to the asymmetric carbon atom, that's the C alpha carbon atom, which is joined together by the four different molecules, four different atoms. Then secondary structure, which is either alpha helix, beta sheet, or maybe the random coil. And the third part is the asymmetric environment of aromatic amino acid, especially the tyrosine and tryptophan. So all these three things actually produces optical activity in protein, and which is used for the analysis of structure and other parameters. Now we discuss about how the CD is useful to understand protein secondary structure. Inherently asymmetric chromophore or asymmetric chromophore or symmetric chromophore in asymmetric environment will interact differentially with the right and left-handed circularly polarized light, which resulting in the difference in the absorption between the light and left circular light in the form of CD signal. The light and left circularly polarized light will be absorbed to different extent at some wavelength due to the difference in the extinction coefficient for the two polarized light called polarized rays, that's called CD. And CD can only occur within a normal absorption band and thus requires either an inherently asymmetric chromophore or symmetric one with asymmetric environment. So the asymmetric environment or achiral molecule, a chiral molecule doesn't give CD signal. Only the chiral molecule which having asymmetric environment can gives you the CD signal. We discuss the significance or importance of CD signals of the protein. For protein, we will be mainly concerned with the absorption in the ultraviolet region of the spectrum from the peptide bonds, that's the asymmetric chromophore, and amino acid side chain in the protein. Protein chromophore can be divided into three classes. That's already I discussed, that the peptide bond, amino acid side chain, and any other prosthetic group. The lowest energy transition in the peptide chromophore is N to pi transition, observed at the 210 to 220 nanometer with a very weak intensity of the epsilon max, approximately 100. You can see here the typical structure of a polypeptide chain, component of polypeptide chain, where N-pi to pi transition occurs between around 190 nanometer and it gives the epsilon max equals to 7000, and N-to-pi transition occurs around 208 to 210 nanometer, 191 to 193 nanometer, and its epsilon max value is around 100. So if you have all these ideas, then you will be only able to understand the significance of CD data and analysis of the CD data further. Now we discuss about how the secondary structure measured by the using CD. The secondary structure of protein are measured in the far UV CD region, and the far UV CD region exhibits the distinct spectra for the alpha helical protein, beta sheet, and random coil secondary structure. The presence of minima at 222 nanometer and a positive peak at 208 nanometer is a diagnostic feature for the alpha helical content. A purely alpha helical protein gives you a deep intense negative signal at 222 nanometer and a positive peak at 208 nanometer, while a broad minima peak means the negative peak at the 217 nanometer is the indicative of substantial beta structure, and a weak positive CD signal around 220 to 230 nanometer is indicative of substantial disorder structure. So these information mainly used to estimate the amount of different kind of secondary structure present in a protein. The N-to-pi transition appears in the alpha helical region form of the polymer as a small soldier near the 220 nanometer on the tails of much stronger absorption band centered at 190 nanometer. This intense band is responsible for the majority of the polypeptide bond absorbance, and it is a pi to pi transition with an epsilon maxima of 7000. Using CD, these different transitions are more clearly evident, and exciton splitting of the pi to pi transition results in the negative band at 208 and positive band at 192 nanometer. Now the CD spectra of protein, different secondary structure of the polypeptide bonds have different relative intensity of N to pi transition and resulting in different spectra of the far UV CD region in the 180 nanometer to 260 nanometer. CD is also very sensitive to change in the secondary structure of the protein, like if any environmental changes that induces the loss or gain in the secondary structure, which can also be examined by the CD spectroscopy. CD is commonly used to monitoring the conformation changes in the protein, even in a dynamic way, like you can keep continuously adding certain substances which causes the change in the secondary structure, that can easily be monitored by the using CD. The CD spectrum is additive, and amplitude of CD curve is measure of the degree of asymmetry. The alpha content in a peptide and protein can be estimated using CD signal at 222 nanometer, and the standard of epsilon value at 222 nanometer is the 33,000 degree per centimeter square per decimole per residue, is a value for the purely alpha helical protein. Several curve fitting algorithms can be used to deconvolute relative secondary content of a protein using CD spectra of protein with the known structure to estimate exactly how much amount of secondary structure present in a protein which are under investigation. You can take a protein and then you take its spectra, and its spectra is compared with the known spectra of the CD signal, and by that you can deconvolute the amount of secondary structure present in a particular protein. We discuss CD signals for different secondary structures, a very important component of this module, because what kind of a structure you will get in CD, what kind of information you will get in CD, so you must know how to analyze the data. So the adoption of secondary structure by a polypeptide chain imposes a supersymmetry that gives rise to characteristic CD signal band as a result of degenerate interaction between adjacent electronic transition dipoles. These spectra can be analyzed both qualitatively and quantitatively to get the information about the secondary structure of the protein. Here in the graph you can see the curve in the black color is a typical alpha helical protein. Blue color you see the spectra of the typical beta sheeted protein, and pink color is showing the spectra of the random coil. So in all the case you find a very intense peak at a particular wavelength. For example, for the alpha helix you can see here that the two negative peaks are observed at the 222 nanometer and 208 nanometer. So this deep negative peak is the signature of the alpha helix, and the value of the theta 222 nanometer is taken for the further analysis in the structure of the protein. And a positive signal at 192 nanometer is also the signature of the alpha helical protein. So for alpha helical protein, the basic criteria is that it having the deep intense peak at 222 nanometer, 208 nanometer, and positive peak at 192 nanometer. For the beta sheeted protein, you can see that at the 216 nanometer a negative peak is the signature, and 195 nanometer a positive peak is a signature. For the beta turn, although it's very low amount in the protein, there are 220 negative peak at 222 to 230 nanometer, and 180 to 190 nanometer strong peak is the signature of beta turn. However, a left-handed proline 2 helix having the negative peak at 190 nanometer and 210 to 230 nanometer having a weak positive peak. And for the random coil, a peak at 200 nanometer is the signature of alpha of random coil protein. We discuss about the total secondary structure information. So from that data you can derive that how the structure of unknown protein can be derived if you have the data of the known protein. You can see here a typical spectra of the myoglobin, hen lysozyme, triphosphate isomerase in green in color, and chymotrypsin. So because all these proteins, like for example chymotrypsin is all beta protein, so you can see here that in the blue color they have a particular types of the spectra. But the lysozyme is a mixed alpha and beta protein. You can see here that for the lysozyme in pink in color having the different types of spectra. Then triose phosphate isomerase that having the alpha plus beta content, and In green color, you see the peak intensity are different in both positive and negative region. However, the myoglobin is purely alpha helical protein and having a typical alpha helical characteristic spectra. So based on these data, you should be able to get the structure information of the other protein for which you measured its CD spectra and compare with these data. We discussed the how you deconvolute a structure from the standard component. So for that, this equation is used: theta lambda equals to xa theta lambda plus xb plus xr to estimate the protein secondary structure. For example, X-ray structure of chymotrypsin, carboxypeptidase, myoglobin, and lysozyme. It having the alpha helical content around 23, 8, around 68, and 28%. But if it talks about the beta sheet content, the carboxypeptidase having 18%, alpha chymotrypsin having 22%, myoglobin is 0 because purely alpha helical, and lysozyme having 10%. And the random coil percent is very high in the carboxypeptidase and alpha chymotrypsin, then very low in around 30% in the myoglobin and 62% in the lysozyme. So the same data is calculated from the CD and taken polylysine as a basic set. It having not exactly, but it's having a correspondence with the structure determined by the X-ray crystallography. For example, you can see here carboxypeptidase having 23% alpha helix, but it is showing 13% alpha helix by CD, and 18% beta sheet having 31% beta sheet by CD, and 59% random corresponding with the 56% of the random coil measured by the CD. Similarly, you can see for all the protein. So based on that, there are so many servers are designed which gives you an information about the secondary structure content of any protein when you measure the CD spectra and compare with the possible known crystal structure. We discussed that what are the different tools that used to measure the secondary structure or to estimate the secondary structure content in a protein whose CD data is collected. So these are the online tools to estimate the secondary structure content of a protein. There are several methods to deconvolute spectra. So these structure content can be extracted by SSE, secondary structure estimation, Contine, Belloc, VAR SLC, self-consistence, Lincomb CCA, BPNN, that's based on the use of neural network, SOM-BPN, and PROT-CD. So for the determination of globular protein conformation in a solution, Dicroweb, Cellcon, CDNN, and K2D are the very well-known software, and by using this software you can accurately measure the amount of secondary structure content in any protein whose spectra is determined by CD. For determination of polypeptide conformation, Contine or Lincomb with a suitable set of reference. And for the determination of effect of mutation of ligand and perturbation on the protein structure, MLR or Lincomb are generally used. Finally, for evaluating the number of folding states giving rise to a set of spectra, the CCA algorithm and SVD are generally used. So this slide tells you about what are the different available software. You can try also online and check that how these data are useful. Now I will tell you about the limitations of secondary structure analysis. Despite of it is a very good technique for the estimation of secondary structure content, but it has certain limitation. For example, the simple deconvolution of CD spectrum into 4 to 5 components which do not vary from one protein to another in a gross oversimplification. The reference CD spectra corresponding to 100% helix, 100% sheet, 100% turn are not directly applicable to protein, which contains short section of the various structure. For example, the CD of an alpha helix is known to increase with increasing the helix length, and CD of beta sheet are very sensitive to environment and geometry. Apart from these limitations, the far UV curve more than 275 nanometer can contain contribution from the aromatic residue. In practice, CD is measured at a wavelength below this. And finally, the shape of the far UV CD curve, it depends on the tertiary as well as secondary structure of the protein. So these are the some limitation of the deconvolution or of the secondary structure information from the CD spectra of the protein. Guys, now we discuss about the tertiary structure measurement in the near UV CD. So CD band in the near UV CD region, that ranges from 260 to 350 nanometer, are observed in a folded protein where the aromatic side chains are immobilized in an asymmetric environment. The CD aromatic residue is very small in the absence of ordered structure. The sign, magnitude, and the wavelength of aromatic CD bands cannot be calculated. They depends on the immediate structure and electronic environment of the immobilized chromophore. And finally, the near UV CD spectrum has a very high sensitivity for the native state of the protein, and it can be used as a fingerprint to see the correctly folded conformation of the protein. As it loses any denaturation in protein clearly indicates the loss of the signal for the particular near UV CD region, and that's what we can know that the protein is having native conformation or denatured state. In the near UV CD, 3 aromatic acid side chains that occur in protein like the phenylalanine, tyrosine, and tryptophan have an absorption band in the far UV spectrum. In proteins, the contribution to CD spectra in the far UV where the secondary structure information located is usually negligible. Aromatic residue, if usually abundant, can give a significant effect on the CD spectra in the region less than 230 nanometer and complicating the analysis. And the disulfide group is an inherently asymmetric chromophore, and it prefers as a gauche conformation with a broad CD absorption around 250 nanometer. So phenylalanine, tyrosine, and tryptophan absorbs in the near UV region at about 257, 274, and 280 nanometer with a lambda max epsilon max value is about 200 for the phenylalanine and 1400 for the tyrosine, and of course very high 5600 per mole per centimeter for the tryptophan. How the CD is used to check the conformational state of the protein. In the left panel you can see here CD spectra of one protein at different pH. This is the near UV CD spectra of AEGOBP1 at pH 7 is given in the blue, and at pH 5.5 it's green in color. So disruption of hydrogen bond that keeps the C terminals covering the binding pocket may account for changes in the environment of aromatic residue like the phenylalanine, tyrosine, tryptophan at low pH, and consequently the decrease in the amplitude. So you can clearly see that once the pH dropped down from pH 7 to pH 0.5, a remarkable decrease in the CD band are observed, and you can see here the value at 280 nanometer is almost lost from 85,000 minus 8500 to 6000. So it clearly indicates that the using CD we can estimate the conformational change in protein by changing the pH. In the second graph you can see that the ligand binding to calcium calmodulin also induces a conformational changes, and this is again the near UV CD spectra of the calmodulin, and calmodulin bind to calcium, and once it is bound to calcium its conformation totally change, and that can easily be determined by the CD spectroscopy. We discuss about the ligand binding and conformational changes which is estimated by the CD spectroscopy. The CD spectra also shows conformational dependence. The CD of polynucleotides in various conformation is shown here. You can see here that the CD spectra of poly-deoxy-ADC, poly-ADC, and Z conformation. So you can see here that the raw data from the Rhodes biopolymer CD spectra. So you can see here that the different types of DNA having the different types of CD spectra, and change in the structure and conformation give a change in the CDS spectra. So any observation in the change in CDS spectra is used to estimate the conformational changes associated with the DNA molecule. We discuss about the estimation of conformational changes in protein. When a protein interacts with another protein or ligand, there may be a change in the intrinsic CD due to conformational changes, or the ligand might become optically active. Following figure illustrates the change in intrinsic CD spectra due to protein-protein interaction. In figure number A, you can see here that binding may induce protein to become more helical. Like initially the protein having the different CD spectra, but once it binds with the ligand, it induces a conformational changes and induces more structural into the protein, and that can be clearly observed in the CD spectra. Similarly, you can see here in the figure 2 that the binding of peptide substrate to cyclic AMP kinase also induces a structure. So you can see a increase in the negative signal of the CD that's correspond to the change in the conformation by binding. And in the figure 3, you can see that the CD spectra of native cytochrome C upon binding to cytochrome C oxidase. We discuss about estimation of binding parameters of enzyme ligand complex. Change in elasticity as a function of concentration can be used to determine the ligand binding constant. You can see here in the figure that the increase in elasticity at theta to 22 nanometer at 30 degrees C when fragment of tropomodulin binds to the chimeric peptide. And the transition of enzyme with a ligand, the smaller CD of the dihydrofolate reductase and 1-to-1 complex with the dihydrofolate metaperoxidase. The enzyme alone is a short dashes, and the increase in elasticity at 292 nanometer as a function of dihydrofolate reductase concentration. When we discuss about the thermodynamics of folding and unfolding of protein, you can see here the CD can be used to analyze the thermodynamics of protein and nucleic acid. In the simplest case of molecule that exist in two states, one is the native state and one is the D state. So in the first figure you see that the unfolding of chimeric GCN4 as a function of temperature and concentration followed by changes in the elasticity at 22 nanometer. And in the figure 2, it is the temperature dependence of CD spectrum of DNA molecule. And in the figure 3, you can see here the change in the elasticity as a function of temperature, which can be used to estimate the stability of the DNA and protein molecule. This is the continuation of previous slide, that how this data is taken, and they are fitted to this equation by using Gibbs-Helmholtz equation, delta G equals to O minus RT ln KD. And finally this data is used for the estimation of stability delta thermodynamics value of the protein. Here we discuss about the chemical denaturation, that the thermodynamics of folding and unfolding of protein can also be determined from the changes in structure occurred by the chemical denaturation of the macromolecule. And you can see here that the concentration dependence of guanidinium hydrochloride denaturation of coil model peptide, as the concentration is increases, a decrease in structure was observed, and these data is further fitted into an equation, and that's how we can calculate the stability of the protein. We discuss about the kinetics of protein folding. Changes in the CD as a function of time can also be used to estimate the kinetics of folding and unfolding. You can see here that the unfolding and refolding of the leucine zipper region of the GCN4 as a function of time. A is the unfolding, B is the traces of various final GDMCL1 concentration and constant peptide concentration of GCN4P1 monitored by the change in elasticity at 222 nanometer at pH 7 and 25 degrees C. Solid line represents global fits to the model of a native dimer dissociation to give unfolded chain. Now we talk about the nucleic acid and application of CD for the nucleic acid and other biomolecules. CD can be used to acquire structural and functional information of the DNA, RNA, and their interaction with the other species. The nucleic acid bases themselves are directly involved in close interaction with all common secondary structures. This approach becomes very complex for the larger nucleic acids. As for protein, the secondary structure of DNA, like the B form of the DNA, A form of the DNA, and Z form of DNA, can be easily distinguished by the CD. In fact, the first observation of Z form of DNA was by the use of CD. Moreover, the melting studies can also be conducted by CD to estimate the stability of the DNA, RNA, or the nucleotide, polynucleotide, which can be measured easily by the CD. And finally, the change in the conformation can also be monitored as a function of temperature and solvent by the CD. We discussed the thermodynamics of the nucleic acid. You can see here, as we heat the nucleic acid, its CD value changes and a decrease in CD value is observed clearly. And in the right panel, you can see that CD spectra of different types of DNA like aDNA, bADNA, bDNA, and zDNA. You can see the CD spectroscopy is often used to study the formation of interaction of guanine quadruplexes, which are believed to play important structural role in biological process. Here you can see the CD spectra of DNA in the presence of increasing amount of dye, like in the A, TA, and in the B, AA, and in the C, AB, as a following stoichiometric ratio. So the CDs can be used to see the formation of quadruplex complexes in the DNA molecule. So now you know that the CD spectroscopy is used to gain information about the secondary structure and folded state of protein and polypeptide in solution. Despite of having a lot of advantages like simple and quick experiment, no extensive preparation is required, measurement in a solution phase, and relatively low concentration of the protein or analyte are required. It takes very low time, even in the microsecond time resolution you can frame the CD spectra. It doesn't depend on the size of molecule, so any size of macromolecule can be utilized, can be studied by the CD. And relative change due to the influence of environment on the sample, like the pH, denaturants, and temperature, can be monitored very accurately by the use of the CD. Despite of this advantage, of course, this technique has some few disadvantages, such as it is the interference with the solvent absorption in the UV region, only very dilute, non-absorbing buffer, allow measurement below the 200 nanometer. Absolute measurements subject to the number of experimental errors, and the average accuracy of it's about plus minus 10%, and the CD spectropolarimeter is relatively highly expensive. So students, let's summarize that what we have learned in this module. Measurement of how an optically active compound absorbs right and left circularly polarized light by the CD spectrometer, and that give you the information for the estimating alpha helical content and studying the dynamic changes in the secondary structure, and thus it can be used to follow the kinetics of folding and unfolding and binding in a protein. For example, alpha helical proteins have a negative CD bands at 222 nanometer and positive signal at 208 nanometer, and negative CD at 222 nanometer and 208 nanometer, and positive CD at 193 nanometer. And proteins with well-defined anti-parallel beta pileated sheet have a negative band at 218 nanometer and positive band at 195 nanometer. Disordered protein have very low ellipticity above 210 nanometer and negative band at 195 nanometer. So finally, CD can be used to determine conformation changes accompanying folding, mutation, ligand binding, protein nucleic acid, and protein-protein interaction. Thank you very much.